Nope.
We all have distant memories, fragmented recollections from days past. Many of these memories are from the earliest days of our childhood. We often are only able to recall a handful of elements and struggle to find a link between seemingly random people, places, and things. It's usually of no concern to us. We are perfectly content with leaving the memory behind us where it belongs. And yet sometimes the truth is revealed to us without warning and can shake us to our very core. One of those distant memories also happens to be my first memory. I can't remember much. I was very young, more than likely still a toddler. My family and I traveled to a small town in Iraq in order to attend my uncle's wedding. I was with my mother and night had set in. Like I said, it was in a small town of a developing country decades ago, so the streets were scarcely lit after the sun bid its adieu to the world. My mother was occupied with something. I can't remember what, but I do remember that it entirely captivated her attention. With her back to me, I was vulnerable for a small window of time. That was all that thing needed. I say thing, but the truth is I know what it was. A hand. Not the hand of a monster or a demon, just a normal hand. I couldn't tell you if it belonged to a man or a woman, just that it was dirty, old, and weathered. I could not see whose hand it was. The hand came out of the abyss, just a disembodied palm from the thick darkness. It wrapped around my wrist and gripped forcefully. I didn't feel any pain, but I remember I couldn't move my wrist. For some reason, I didn't struggle. I was scared, but I didn't show it. I remember being afraid to move, thinking the hand would take me away if I did. So I closed my eyes and remained still. Perhaps I tried to fake sleep? Whatever I did, I'm glad I decided on it. I felt the second hand gently brush on my arm, but what did it want? The second hand began to pull on the bracelet I was wearing. The bracelet I do remember. It belonged to my family and my mother loved it. So naturally, I too loved it. It was quite valuable, and my father always objected to letting me wear it in public, but I managed to slip it past him that day. The hand was trying to remove my prized possession, and I began to panic. But no matter how nervous I became, I did not move. I kept telling myself to stay still. Just stay still and don't move. It wasn't long until the hand had removed my bracelet. It was silent for a moment, and I considered opening my eyes and calling to my mother, but I continued my charade for a little longer. I'm glad I did. I heard an old, worn voice beside me began to chuckle. I assumed it was a woman because of the higher pitch, but I still cannot be sure. The phantom hand began to caress my head and my cheek before disappearing. I waited another moment and peeked ever so slightly. The hand was gone. My mother was returning to me. She noticed my bracelet was gone right away. When she asked where it was, I lied and said I didn't know. I'm not sure why I lied. Maybe I thought she would be mad at me for not calling her over, or would think I was making the hand up, or maybe I was just still scared. I was a toddler after all. Eventually we moved on. My parents accepted the bracelet was gone, and my mind quickly forgot about the hand. We made our way back to the States, and the rest was history. I rarely, if ever, thought about that night. When I did, it was for brief moments before I got distracted or bored. Again, I could only remember fragments. But recently I saw something that brought everything back to me in full force. It was my last semester in college, and I had taken a blow-off elective course that was very heavy in research and writing. We were told to research our hometowns or that of our parents. Seeing as I was one of the few students who had actually grown up outside of the country, I thought this would be an easy A. And for the most part it was. I simply Googled the name of the village and got enough encyclopedia entries and articles to meet and even surpass the minimum word count. It was one of those articles that sent waves of fear rushing through my body. The article was titled, "Small Iraqi Village Grieves After Child Massacre." It was my family's village, the town I was in when the hand took my bracelet. I read on and felt my anxiety rising. The article told of a string of children being murdered at the hand of a nomadic group of gypsies. The gypsies were eventually caught and revealed their story. They would travel from town to town and would steal from the weaker people they came across, such as the handicapped, elderly, and of course, children. They managed to evade capture for so long because of their techniques. They would act only in the dead of night to avoid detection, and if anyone did manage to catch them in the act, they were swiftly dealt with. That included the victims of their robbery. If anyone saw their faces, they were quickly taken care of. Their methods were usually sloppy: a powerful blow to the head with some kind of blunt tool, or a slash across the neck with an old, rusty blade. There were a couple of instances that included the kidnapping of small children. They were held primarily for ransom, but I don't want to imagine what else happened to those poor kids while they were in captivity. A lot of the kids were killed anyway, regardless of the ransom being paid. The whole thing left me feeling sick to my stomach. To know that I was so close to becoming a victim of those maniacs. To know the only thing that prevented my death was keeping my eyes shut tight. It all began to come back to me. What stood out most was that laugh. That horrible, evil laugh. It echoes in my mind and to this day brings tears to my eyes. Like I said, sometimes it's best to just leave memories in the past. There's a reason our minds try to blot out certain aspects of our childhood. You're better off just not knowing. Sometimes, ignorance really is bliss.